Identity. So what in the heck is that?
Hawaii. All right, that's good. It's hard to trace, I guess. Wait, you changed your name to McLovin? McLovin?
If I were to ask you what is your identity, what would you say? The first question I like to ask in my podcast is, who is, and then I say the guest's name. So if I'm interviewing myself, I would ask, who is Brett Snodgrass? I will tell you, this question throws people off. They typically have a nervous laugh, they stumble around a little bit, and then they describe who they are.
So, Dave, tell us about yourself. Who are you?
Well, I'm an executive assistant at a major pet products company.
Dave, I don't want you to tell us what you do. I want you to tell us who you are.
Oh, all right.
I'm basically asking them, what is their identity? What is most important to them? How do they define themselves? Today, we are going to open up and dig deep into a man's identity and look at the different foundations that support it. By the end of this video, I would like for you to answer this question. Is your foundation of your identity on shaky ground, or is your identity unshakable? Let's dig. Make sure to subscribe to the Iron Deep channel on YouTube, where we put our creative educational videos each week, and also check out irondeep.com if you're interested in joining our community. Forbes magazine wrote an article titled, How to Discover Your Own Identity and to Capitalize on It. It said this about the definition of identity. Identity is about positive traits. It's also about negative traits. It's a combination of the things that you do. It's your talents, it's your strengths, it's your passions, it's what you love, it's what you care about. But I am surrounded by male business entrepreneurs, and I see that most of them have their identity wrapped into what they do for their career only. They define themselves by the title next to their name. Maybe it's CEO, president, maybe there's an MD after their name, and they put all of their eggs in that basket. That is why when you or I go to a dinner party and you meet another man for small talk, the first question that you ask him is this: so, what do you do? And then he responds with what he does for a living, his career. That is how he defines himself. That is his subjective sense of self. Does nothing else define him? When he answers what he does and he says for his career and his living, is that all he does? What if he's a father? Isn't being a dad something that he does? What if he's a husband? Doesn't he pursue his wife? What if he's a Christian? Doesn't he sit at the feet of the Father and serve him? Why does he only define what he does as his career? And better yet, what if he lost that title? What if something happened in his life that removed him from that career? What if he lost all of his business and all of his money? How would he answer that question then? What would even happen to this man? A study that was done at Oxford University, and it was published in the British Journal of Psychiatry, said this: there were more than 10,000 suicide deaths linked to the financial crisis of 2008. So some people went to the extreme. They lost all their money, their possessions, and business, and they even took their own life. I know that suicide is an extreme action that you may not worry about, but given how many others become depressed, unmotivated, melancholy, and everything about them becomes shaken to the core in these types of situations, it wouldn't hurt to reevaluate yourself and myself. Yes, especially us men. We put so much stock into our business and our careers that if they are taken away from us, we are no longer identified as having that title, our life is shaken. It's because we built our kingdom on a sinkhole, a temporary foundation. I've even experienced this in my own life many times. One example is when I stepped aside from being CEO of my real estate business in the summer of 2020. This was a dream come true that I had always imagined. To own a business, but to have a team run the business, and that I would have absolute freedom in my life. This dream came true for me, and I completely stepped out of the day-to-day. Well, I will tell you, the first 6 months were extremely difficult for me. You see, I had spent 14 years building up this business, grinding, scaling, stressing over the growth to get to this point. And here I was, achieved. And the feeling wasn't anything like I had thought. I even felt kind of empty, even depressed at times. You see, my identity had been wrapped into being the CEO of this small real estate company in Indianapolis, Indiana. And that's how people knew me. My face was recognized. The famous quote from the great theologian Ron Burgundy applied to my life.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
But now, as I stepped out of my business operations, I wasn't a big deal anymore. In fact, about a year later, after I stepped out of the business, I went to a company picnic where all of our employees with their families came. We had a few more employees at this time, and I hadn't met them yet. When I got to the picnic, one of our own employees asked me the famous question, "So, what do you do?" I kind of stumbled around a little bit and I said, "I do real estate." And another employee mentioned, "Dude, he owns the company." My own employees didn't even know who I was. I was now in the background, in the shadows. I wasn't the face of the company anymore. And it took some time, but eventually I was totally okay with that. But again, it took some work and some time to unravel my identity that was so wrapped into my business. Why? Why did I put so much emphasis on what I did for a living? Way more than I thought. It's because our culture raises up the man that is successful. The Western culture is obsessed with the wealthy man, the man who has it all. The word millionaire used to be something men aspired to be, but that word has lost some of its luster. Now, it's billionaire. We are obsessed with more, and $1 million isn't good enough. Now, we strive for $1 billion. Here's a little secret. I am not against millions or billions. But it's not even about money or titles. I want you to be successful. I teach about business and success. Having a platform of financial success has done so much for me, and I couldn't be speaking to you today without that platform. But if your identity is all in the basket of business success and tied deeply into what you do and what you have, you will eventually be completely miserable. Why? Because you and I both know that it is all temporary. It doesn't last. It's not eternal. And eventually you will lose it, or it'll be transferred to someone else. I know that's hard for you to hear because you have worked so hard, but that is a radical truth. Even if you make it to the end of your life as a top business leader, you can't put any money or titles in the casket with you. Someone else is going to get them. And many men will lose their titles or money before they die. A big financially uncontrollable storm could hit, and you might lose everything. If your foundation isn't on a permanent rock, your life will be turned upside down.
Well, don't worry. Don't worry. I'm not gonna do what you all think I'm gonna do, which is just flip out!
We men are striving and working so hard to build our kingdom, to live the best life here in the few years that we have. Which brings me to a parable about other men building their kingdom. In Matthew 7:24, Jesus tells a parable about the wise and the foolish builders. He says, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rains came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash." In this parable, Jesus is speaking to you and me. He says that if you read his words and obey and do what he says, you will have the foundation on his rock that is needed when the storms of life come. And yes, they will come. They are coming for us all in this life. But if you hear his words and don't obey or do what he says, it's like building your kingdom on the sand. Who in the world would ever build his house on the sand? But that is exactly what we're doing when we put all of ourselves and our identity into what we do and what possessions we have. And when the storms of life come, we come crashing and we flounder. It would devastate some people so much, they might even take their own life. In Matthew 6, it says, "No one can serve two masters, for either they will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." Jesus is saying we can't worship two things. We can't surrender our entire life and identities to two things. It's only one. So we have to make a decision, a choice, every single day. Today, whom or what will I serve? Who is my master? What will I surrender to? Will I put everything that I am into what I do for a living and how much money I have or how much I'm worth for a few short years on this earth and build my kingdom on the sand? Or will I put everything I am into the heart of the Father and allow Him to define me and look to Him to give me value and worth? Will I let the Creator and Designer be the one who knows what is best for my life? Will I be driven by the millions of years of eternity that is waiting for me, or the millions of dollars in my bank account? Will I surrender my few years in this world to Him? Will I build His kingdom in this world and have a foundation on the eternal rock that the biggest storms of life cannot destroy? Because I know that this life is just my temporary home and He is waiting for me, and I am waiting to be with Him for all of eternity. So what will you choose today? It's the biggest decision that we all have to make every single day of our life. Whom will we serve? I choose the Father. My identity is in the Father. I ask you to come join me and let's build His kingdom together.